Thank you, Begum. Right, so just on to part three, I'd just like to talk about the importance of digital in a wider context, really, in terms of its not just its impact on in the digital channels and digital media, but also its impact, digital's impact on the physical aspects of retail and commerce. So, and I also want to particularly focus on the what we now call omni-channel. So. It wasn't too long ago. Some of you might remember this very vividly. Others will have grown up with sort of with digital. But I, in the sort of mid-90s, around about the mid-90s, when I started my career in agencies, there was really only one way of shopping. Really, it was a sort of single channel. And if you wanted to buy something, then you usually invariably went to the shops and went to a physical store to buy it. And over the course of the last 20 or 30 years, in particular around the turn of the millennium, this way of shopping has massively evolved. So of course we went through a period of multi-channel, so physical stores and physical store owners adopting digital platforms and digital media and using digital marketing to launch websites, so that not only could you shop in their stores, but you could also visit their websites and in the initial stages view their products without buying them. But as time progressed and technology progressed, it became transactional, so you could buy the products as well online. And then more recently, we've now got an omni-channel experience. So not only have retailers got, they may have physical stores, but if they have physical stores, they usually have websites, they usually have apps or mobile enabled websites and social channels as well. And having those channels and having those digital, having that digital media is one thing, but using them in the same, in a sort of seamless experience is really what brings omni-channel to life. So rather than be separate channels to buy, you can buy from a website, or you can buy from the store, or you can buy from your mobile phone or through a social media channel. Omni-channel is about linking everything together. So if you go on a website and inquire about a product and its availability, you should also get the same experience and information from your mobile phone. So you should be able to sort of look at the availability of the product should say the same thing on the mobile, and also the design of the interfaces on the online and in the physical environment. The brand of that particular retailer should be the same as well, or be or be in synergy, be very similar. So you should get the same sort of brand experience throughout. Now, of course, not all retailers have all these channels. Many do, most do these days, particularly if they're a size, but there are still some independents that are just still retail stores and physical stores on their own. But particularly with COVID, of course, even the smaller independent stores have adopted, have embraced even quicker the mobile channels and started to use apps and use websites even more than perhaps they were doing beforehand. So the big catalyst for this was of course digital technology, but the mobile phone in particular. So smartphones in particular have become, in the last 10, 15 years, as the technology has developed, smartphones have become almost personal shopping assistants for people. So we've got the ability to look at merchandise, to look at stores, to browse for information and to buy on our phones 24/7 and 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, wherever we are. Now, I don't know, do you want to play that little video at this point, Fanny?
Okay, will do.
Thank you. So that's it's quite an interesting video because it explains how one of the big challenges actually for Google and other digital platforms in that they can link together the digital experience and the digital shopper journey very easily, of course, through because they own the media and because they have cookies and everything else. But it's very hard to, it has been hard for them to follow and sort of track customers through the physical experience. So they might, as it sort of suggests there, people might have seen ads online, but tracking them, if they didn't buy online, it might have encouraged them to buy, but they also may just as well have been encouraged to buy, but gone to a physical store to pick up. So the technology, that video is a few years old now. The technology is getting there to, or certainly algorithms are there to try to sort of predict what sort of type of influence digital has on those physical store visits. But it's still not 100%. It's not foolproof. So as I've said, we've got most people now are aspiring to, most retailers are aspiring to be an omni-channel retailer, unless they're a very small independent store. But most retailers are aspiring to have the omni-channel experience, so to have the store in many instances, although not all, because they might be pure play digital retailers, but if they have a physical presence, they have the store, have the website, have the app, have the social channels of all different types, of course, now, and of course have search and be present in the search engines for when people search for information, they have a high profile on Google search, for example. And the digital influence over retail and shopping has been incredible, really. Again, in the last, particularly over the last 10 years, digital's influence over consumer shopping and purchase decisions has been absolutely massive as technology has developed. I think these charts here show particularly, there's no exact time, but particularly around 2012, 2013 was a big shift from when we started to see higher penetration of mobile phones, particularly in the West. And of course, their influence and digital's influence over shopping really accelerated. So from 2012 to 2013 there, we saw mobile's influence over shopping jump from 5% to 19%. In the US, these figures are all US based, and digital overall jumped from 14% to 36%. So digital in 2013 was predicted to influence 36% or $1.1 trillion of US retail sales. Now, of course, that was 2013, 7 years, getting on for 8 years later, we're up to must be 90% at least of digital, purchases have some influence over digital, which doesn't mean to say that all 90% of purchases, of course, are made online, but there's an influence. There is an ad that somebody's seen. There is a post that somebody's seen on a social media channel. Even something that somebody shared, a friend has shared through Facebook that they've purchased a product, and maybe encouraging or suggesting you might too, is a digital influence. And digital influence by store type is also very interesting. And again, these figures are a little bit old now, but at the time, it just shows how things changed. So in around 2012, on mobile, the by store type, so different types of stores, the influence of mobile on the path to purchase, on the decision making on retail was 10% in furniture at the top there, for example, but it doubled over the course of 12 months to 21%. And of course, it was much bigger now. I remember, one of my agency clients at that time was a furniture retailer in the UK called DFS, based in Doncaster, but with 70 stores plus probably across the UK. So it might be familiar to many of you. And DFS built and created by Lord Kirkham, who founded the company and built it up and then sold it. Sold it, somebody floated it and then bought it back. So Lord Kirkham knows a lot about furniture, but he around about that time, I remember having a conversation with him, and he was convinced that nobody would buy his sofas online. So he had DFS had a website at that time, but he wasn't convinced, even despite the multi-million-dollar company he'd built, that people would buy sofas online. But of course, once he'd set the transactional website up, it quickly became clear that people were absolutely buying. So not just browsing for sofas, but buying them online. And very quickly, the DFS website became the biggest store more than outperformed any of his physical stores because of the sales through the people buying sofas, just as one example. So one of the main reasons for digital's influence, of course, is people are desperate. Everybody, we all are desperate and attuned and brought up and live off information. So digital, because mainly because of our access to information now is infinite and far easier than it ever has been. So it's like a drug. We look not just for when we're shopping, but for any in any scenario, lots of scenarios, we look for information, and it is often to hand. So there's a survey here done by Google. Before they visit a store, 87% of people claim they look for information. 79% of people, whilst are looking for information while they're shopping, and even after they've made a purchase and after visiting the store, there's still 35% of people still looking for information on a variety of different things, on how to use the products, on warranties and guarantees, on maybe returns, and how to return it if it's faulty or it's not right for them. So information is hugely important in the shopping experience. And people can get that information through digital, of course, but in a variety of different ways. And the search engines, of course, are very, very powerful now, searching for products and stores and availability and locations. But there's also a myriad of other ways. There's the online only retailers, so Amazon, for example, in their apps. There's the websites, the branded websites of retailers who might have physical stores as well. The DFS is an example. Searching for information through social networking websites and apps, through video and how-to videos and things like that, and also looking at sort of maybe the more mainstream media websites that might feature coupons or deals, or the offer websites that sort of often have coupons and deals. So people are searching for information before they make a purchase on whether they can find a discount or a coupon to apply to their purchase. But I guess for me particularly, I want to sort of re-emphasize the importance of, as much as we're all users of digital technology and huge fans of it, of course, the store still has the physical stores still have a role to play. Perhaps not the greatest time to be saying that at the moment, because many stores are in the UK in particular closed for legal reasons for the COVID. But regardless, the physical store still has a big role to play in purchases, and whether it's actually purchases, the gathering of information. So, people still need inspiration. So 32% of people looking to make a purchase said they use physical stores for inspiration. If you know exactly what you want, you can search for it on Google. If you're not sure what you want, or you want to be inspired, or you want to have some ideas, then there's still a very powerful draw to visit a physical environment, to browse, to look at different products, to look at different stores, to see what they might have to offer and see what might take your interest. But researching information, purchasing through physical stores, of course, and then post-purchase behavior. There's a lot of certainly pre-COVID, there's a lot of research done to say that people prefer to take products back, particularly big ticket items, back to a physical store, and where they might have a complaint. But of course, COVID and technology does progress, and we're very attuned now to returning goods without visiting a physical store as well. But post-purchase, foot stores have a use as well. So again, I've talked about this a lot, and of course we're all aware, the in-store, the big sort of game changer, if you like, on retail was the smartphone. So 71% of in-store shoppers who have a smartphone say they do research on their device, and it has become more important to their in-store experience. So people are even often using their mobile phones in physical stores to check prices of what they're looking at in other retailers. Again, back in the day, if you wanted to check a price or check compare a price of a product in a store, you had to go and visit the other stores and trek around the high street. Of course, now you don't have to do that. You can stand in one store and check the prices online of products in the competitors to make sure before you buy in that store, you're getting the right, you're getting the lowest price for the right deal for you. And as I said, information is so powerful that if it's not there, if people can't access information for whatever reason, it's a problem. So 2 in 3 shoppers who tried to find an information within a store said if they didn't find it, all the information they needed, it becomes very frustrating. 43% in this survey by Google said that they were less frustrated. 41% said they were more likely to therefore shop elsewhere because they couldn't get the information they wanted. And 22% went even a bit further by saying that they were less likely to buy from that retailer going forward because the information wasn't readily available to them. And of course, we search for information at different touch points, and we'll search for different information at different touch points throughout the customer journey. So if we're buying big ticket items in particular, or maybe highly technical items, we do a lot of research up front on online and potentially in stores to see what that item, whether the item is what we really want and whether it fits our purposes and whether it's better than alternatives. But we do a lot of information gathering up front. But then as we go down the foot, as Begum mentioned, as we sort of progress down the sort of purchase funnel and we get nearer to making a decision and making a purchase, our information needs might be different. So as we get further down the funnel, we might want to check the prices more keenly. So we've made a decision on what product we want, and we've gathered all that information. But we also then, as we get further down the funnel, want to check that the prices are right. I'm not sure that this example of Capri Suns is perhaps the best example of checking prices. When I buy a Capri Sun, I don't normally personally go out and really price check it, but nevertheless, it shows you just what's possible. It is a live example, and it just shows you how, if you in retailers, even the sort of major retailers, how the price of some certain goods at certain times differs from £2 for Capri Suns in Sainsbury's and Asda at that particular point, whenever that was, whereas you could sort of get it for £3.40 in your co-op. So if you're a big Capri Sun user, that would make a massive difference. And this slide is just talking about how information and at different touch points, there's certain sectors that are more that preclude us to look for certain information more frequently. So the clothing, health, home improvement, and furnishings areas are very price conscious. So we compare prices a lot for those particular sectors. Baby goods in particular is a very price sensitive sector. There are some brands in there, and some product brands and some retail brands that are very strong and a very powerful draw. But if you've got a baby, usually most people are under financial pressure as well, because they've got a new baby and they've got to care for a new baby, and maybe not both of the partners isn't at work. So baby is very price sensitive. So comparing prices, finding coupons online, very important. Other bigger tickets, auto, electronics, appliances, you want product information. You want to research exactly whether that product is right for you, whether it does the job you want, what sort of technical spec it has, what power it has, what features it has. So there's a lot of product information there as well that you can find and what need to look at online. So examples of other sorts of information that we would regularly search for as shoppers. Well, we've talked about prices, but prices of items at nearby store, on your mobile potentially while you're in store, whether the item's in stock. So again, in the modern times, we don't like sort of trolling around high streets generally. We'd rather find out whether it's in stock and make sure that our local store has it as well, before we then make the trip out, because we've got busy lives. Where the location of our closest store is, what the store details are, if we need to get in touch with them, with easy access to the store phone number and a map, just if we're not familiar with it, a map we might find online. So we can cut time and save ourselves time by going exactly to the store rather than having to sort of get there and find it. And also what else is available at the store. So if we're not familiar with the store, we can look at what else is available and whether we need anything else to pick up at that same time, at that same visit. So all different sorts of information there. And lots of the retailers now are trying to do this as give this information in increasingly better ways and ways that are more in tune with what shoppers want. So Office Depot in this example are not only showing the price in Google Shopping, but they're also showing their availability for customers at the nearest store. So if people are looking at price, Office Depot in this example are very clearly showing where their store is and the fact that it's in stock to encourage people browsing online for this particular product to not wait, to come down and pick it up now in this example in Palo Alto, but wherever you might be. So it's very important, I guess, one of the key messages from this bit of the presentation is that all marketing efforts, as we know, should be ideally customer-centric. It's about attracting and engaging and getting customers to buy from us. Digital channels, very, very useful to us in doing that, particularly, as we've said, because we leave on digital a trail behind us as to what we've not only bought, but what we've browsed, and what our sort of buying habits, what other products we buy, as well as the products that we've actually purchased. So it gives retailers the power online to suggest alternatives to us, to update us and send us information on new product launches, to suggest if we buy one thing that we might like to buy, they might like to buy something else as well. And then just to finish off, there's a chap called Stephen Dennis, who's the URL is at the bottom there, who is a retail expert, and you might want to just check out his website and have a look at this. But he's put together this model that embraces digital, but is about retail fundamentally, and it's the 8 essentials of a remarkable retail framework. So you can see this online, but just quickly, there's a sort of 8-stage model here. And he talks about these 8 things. So he talks about the importance of being digitally enabled, which is not about being digital first, actually. It's not about just being everything on digital. It's about being enabled digitally. So at the right points in the journey, you have the technology when you want to access information. Not about everything being digital. You might well need a physical store and want a physical store because your customers do. It's about being human-centered. So regardless of technology, we've got to present a human experience. It's not about an automated or the more human we can retain humanity, human sort of approach we can retain in our digital marketing, the better, because that's what we're all human beings at the end of the day, not robots. It needs to be harmonized. So this is where he actually says omni-channel is dead, which is sort of making the point that everything needs to be connected now, and actually, whereas omni-channel used to be an ambition for many retailers, it's really a standard really now. You need to have everything connected and harmonized. You need to have more. You need to have the ability to shop on mobile, because we carry very powerful personal computers with us in our pockets all day, every day, and that's what we use to browse, but also to buy. Personalization is very important. So digital allows us not just to be a human face, but to be personalized, so to interact with our customers on a personal level, so to recommend products that they've bought based on what their purchase history is, but also to address them personally, to use the technology to connect with them personally and use their names and use their, assuming they've given us the permission, of course, under GDPR, but we use their personal experience. We connect, of course, so boundaries between digital, mobile, under the technology allows us to sort of visit websites, but then flick into social media platforms and back and forth seamlessly. And then the sort of final 2 pieces, I guess, are applicable not just to digital, but to retail in general, in that you need to be memorable. So it's great having all this technology, but the brand is still very important. So we've seen lots of retailers recently, sadly, go out of business, and one of the reasons, there's many reasons for that, but one of the reasons is they became not as relevant as they once were to people. So the story behind the brand, regardless of what they've done on digital or offline or online with their logistics and their delivery, their brand had become quite stale and not as memorable and relevant as it used to be. So retaining uniqueness and retaining the wow factor. And also his final point is about being radical. So it's about there's too many retailers, and many of those, the likes of Maplin Electronics and some of the clothing retailers that have Debenhams again is sort of on if not in administration from what memory, it's certainly on the ropes. But they need to be radical. They've perhaps been too slow to adopt some of these digital technologies, even some of these big companies. So it's now, along with COVID and along with the recession, now really sort of biting. So remain radical and keep pushing the boundaries, I guess, is his message there. That just summarizes those points. So just final point for me, I think food for thought for everybody. We've talked about, we all know about the penetration of smartphones, access to online information has massively changed how we shop. But then I guess this is just reflecting on how much it really changed. Will the online marketplace will online replace physical stores completely due to technological advancement and other environmental factors, COVID keeping us in and COVID giving many of us the necessity to embrace digital rather than the desire. We've had to, because we had to get more stuff delivered to our homes rather than go out. But so it's just posing the question here about, will tomorrow's consumers be that informed that the in-store experience becomes irrelevant? And I guess, I'll leave you to reflect on your own on that one, but I don't think physical stores personally will become irrelevant. I think many of them will continue, sadly, to go bust, and our high streets will never be the same again because of technology and other things as well. But the physical store has a place, but it's a lot different for now. It will be going forward a lot different than what we've experienced in the past. It will be, if they're to survive physical stores, they need to be much more of an experience and give us something as shoppers in the physical world that we just can't get online. So just a quick example of that might be of something I was thinking about the other day. There's a cycle shop near me, which is an independent actually, but it's like a Raffa. There's a Raffa certainly in London. It's like a branded cycle shop. I'm not a cyclist, but I see all these bikes outside, and it's a cycle shop selling cycle clothing, bicycles, racing bikes, and all the gear. And they've also got a cafe in this place. So every weekend it's absolutely full to it was pre-COVID. Every weekend it's full to the rafters with cyclists who come from all over Yorkshire, where I live, to ride their bikes. But they visit the Prologue, it's called, and they look at the merchandise. They look at these £5,000 wheels or whatever they are. Maybe they buy some clothing or buy some kits, but they also have a coffee, they have a break before they then go back on the bike and they go back to where they were. So it's just an example of where, could they buy that stuff online? Yes. But for them, it's that particular offer is an experience in terms of touching and feeling sort of merchandise that they sort of might not necessarily have the money to buy yet, but they like to. But also a social experience, again, pre-COVID and post-COVID, hopefully, that they can interact with their friends and it be a destination as well as something that they use as a retailer. So that's just one example of why and how physical stores might and should survive and thrive in that context. And that's it for me.
And the references for the slides have been specified in the respective slides itself. I thank you all the speakers, Begum, Gareth, and Izzy, for presenting us with their valuable information and sharing their experiences. Thanks a lot.